Okay. I'm sure everybody's ready to go. My name is Bob Sarah. Welcome to this afternoon's talk on Security 101. This is Mr. Dave Dumas. This is presentations for security professionals who will address how to apply network infrastructure to an infrastructure networks that require protection. This is Security 101. David is very good at what he does. Dave Dumas is a distinguished fellow and a senior network security engineer working for the Chief Security Officer of the Verizon Wireline Security Operations Group. His current work involves outsourcing, offshoring, federal regulations, cybersecurity, and privacy regulation, customer visits, presentations, and he is a Verizon representative on the outside committees. David was the director of the Verizon's network security, architecture and design for 9 years prior to his role. In that role, he led efforts on network security, PKI, file security, security governance, and risk assessment. Previously, David held positions at Digital Equipment Corporation for 14 years, established a security consulting practice. David is an author and presenter on the topic of securing networks. He has 27 years in the field of security, and his background is in computer science and security consulting. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. David Dumas.
There's some more chairs in the, if you guys want to stand up. Not that one, because that looks like a dump's chair. Welcome. It sounds like I built this out of for what the people in the room wanted to do, and thanks to the folks that did stop by the ISSA table and asked what this talk was all about. I explained it. I had 38 slides, so I'm going to move pretty quick. Bob just mentioned this one, so now we're down to 36. When I originally started putting this stuff together, I said, how do we get more security professionals into the field? Because there's a lot of criminal professionals out there. We need to even up the odds. And so I said, well, we got to start explaining to people, young and old. I've talked to high schoolers, I'm talking to you folks as adults. We need more security professionals out there, and they constantly will come by me and say, how do I get into the field? What should I be studying? This is my business. What should I be looking for? So take this slide deck, and if you want a copy of it, then just send an email to me, david.dumas@verizon.com. If you send it to .net, it goes to another person. That's what happens when you have 10 million people using ISP. Go through every one of these slides. The references are on the slides. Every one of the keywords, if you don't know what they are, Google them, figure out what they are, use Wikipedia, things like that, and just learn more about the field so you can talk intelligently to whatever you're doing, to your developers, to your product people, to your infrastructure, how to protect your own home network. So we're going to go through a lot of this stuff. We're going to go through it pretty quickly, but you're going to go back through this stuff and get a better idea. So when I built a course, a 3-hour course that I did out in California this spring, I gave them homework assignments. This is one of yours. So you have 2 questions to answer. For the company you work for, what would be the 5 things someone wants to steal? You need to know the answer to that, because that's what they're going to go after, and that's what you want to protect the most. You can't protect everything. You want to protect the most, because the end game is now, they're probably in your network, they're trying to go for those 5 things. You need to know what they are, and you need to protect them better. We're going to talk a little bit about how to do that. All right? The end game used to be use firewalls, antivirus, IDS, and all of that stuff, and you're going to be fine. They're not going to get in past your perimeter. They're probably past the perimeter, so the end game now is to find them as quick as you can and root them out before they steal those top 5 things. Okay? That's the new game, and that's why we need more security professionals. The other thing is, in your home networks, what are the 5 things you want to protect in your home networks? For instance, you want your financial bank account information. You want to make sure that that is not stolen. Your videos of your kids, all of that stuff. Whatever you think is the most important in your home network. Your disk space is important, because if someone's running an illegal business, they might want to put their child porn on that disk, things like that. So you don't want that knock on the door from the FBI saying you have child porn and you had nothing about it, but you had an open connection to the internet. They use your disk space in order to store their stuff. So take that seriously. Know what you need to protect, because you can't protect everything, and that's a good homework assignment for you. The other homework assignment I'll give you is to read the Verizon Data Breach Report, which I have some slides on. Really good read, and I'll summarize that too in this talk. So we've been around for about 20 years, this thing called the internet. I was talking to high schoolers and realized that every one of them there was born after the internet started. So I really started feeling old when I did that, but it's been, it went from 3 million users to 2.3. That's a billion, that's a lot of people. So this internet has really taken off. I'm hearing things called industrial internet coming up now and things like that. It may be to the point where the internet itself becomes hard to do business on, and we may go to a second network and do some of that stuff, and that's where we really apply a lot more security to it. This was never designed to be secure. We've had to fix a lot of the protocols over time. So why do the criminals like this place? It's a beautiful place. There's no taxes, there's no laws. You can rob the bank from anywhere in the world. So for a lot of reasons, they're actually kind of pissed off because it's not fast enough to steal all the stuff that they want to get it out fast enough. That's how much money they're making around the world on stealing from the internet. The United States has been a prime target to steal from because we're so well connected. We have almost everything online. So they can do it from their safe havens around the world. How much can they make? The biggest thing is to get something called a zero-day exploit. What that means is there's no patch against whatever it is, so that if you're running that software and they have an exploit for it, you never even know that they hit you. And so that's why 0 days are more valuable. So if you have a 0 day against the Microsoft operating system, it's worth $50,000 in today's money. That's a lot of money. For some countries, that may be 2 or 3 years worth of salary. Where they're coming from. So when you get down into these things, these used to be worth a lot more money. Now there is so much identity theft going on that you really can't make a lot of money in that stuff. So some people are really going up into this area to make a decent amount of money. So it's out there. These are some of the numbers.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
How did you came up with these numbers?
This was part of this study here. It was related to the fraud stuff. And I think I got this slides from a guy within Verizon. So my suggestion is to just, on each one of these things, sort of Google the first 2 or 3 words in it, and you'll find the actual report that's referenced.
I know the bottom half, you can go to Pastebin and actually look at advertisements for people selling the stuff.
Yeah.
See what they're asking.
Yeah, it's to the point where black hole premium is probably one of the most used exploit kits that are out there. It costs $10,000 a month to run. You say, holy crap, that's $120,000 a year to run my illegal business. But all I have to do is create, you get some free 0 day exploits in it, so you can just go out and just broadcast it across the world. And all you have to do is get 200 people to click on it, infect them, and then just, with like ransomware, just encrypt the disk and just say, if you give me $50, I'll decrypt your disk and go away. You have all your kids' pictures back or your work PC back. You say, well, that's worth $50, and we get that back to the PC, maybe $500. All they have to do is get 200 people to do that, and they've got the $10,000. And then they can use the rest of the time to steal intellectual property and do stuff like that and make $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 that month. So it's a real business for a lot of people. And you get full-time 24/7 support when you buy this. So it's a valid business, and they're making lots of money. That's right. So it's pretty scary how much of this stuff has changed from 2 or 3 years ago. If you talk about, I saw this report, and this report happened in the spring, and it was just amazing to show that this level of intelligence is out there. So this is the Red October exploit, and Persky Labs actually put this out there, and they stole 7 terabytes worth of data over 5 years, and it was just let known now as to what they were doing. The interesting thing in all of this is, if you take a look at some of the gray areas, these are the areas that weren't actually compromised. And so, I'm not pointing to any one country, but there may be some countries that could potentially have been involved in this in some capacity. Now, I don't think that up here in these colder climates there's too much going on. That they may not even have internet up there. But the reality is that this happened over a 5-year span, and we just figured it out now. And most people don't even keep logs past a year, so you wouldn't even be able to tell that it even happened to you, because that was 5 years ago. So, one word of caution: if you aren't carrying enough logs, you need to start carrying your logs forward for many, many years, because they can be in there for 2, 3, 5 years before you even know you've been compromised. And so you need to know a little bit more about that. So, little plug for EMC, buy some more discs. The FireEye report, this came out this spring too. I thought this was interesting in that this area right in here, they analyzed, this is their data because they analyzed malware, 89 million events, and across all organizations, on average, you are attacked every 3 minutes. So they're persistent, they're out there, they're constantly doing it, and as security professionals, we have to be better than they are. And that's really hard because they just have to find one problem, you have to defend the whole network. In our case, we're in 150 countries. It's really hard to keep that network tight. In my group alone, we have 120 professionals. So anyways, take a look at these reports that come out from a lot of vendors that deal with malware, deal with intrusions, and just take a look at what's happening in the industry. That's why we need more security professionals, because the battle's changing. And let me tell you a quick story. I did a cyber talk at a healthcare company last year. They had Computer Security Week. And I thought, I had 1 hour to talk about security and just how to get them a little excited about it. And it was after lunch, so I know they're all going to be dirty. Well, the person who talked before me was the senior VP in the organization. And he stood up there like this, and before I get up, he looked at everybody in the room. There's like 8 people, and they all work for him. He said, if we have an exploit in this company, you no longer have a job because the company folds. They all sat up after that and listened to me. It was amazing. It was like they thought I was a guru. No, the reality was they're in the healthcare field. They have 160 employees. And if the reputation, if they knew that they were compromised the next year when those contracts become for renewed, they could go to alternate vendors. Therefore, their business goes down, 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 down. So small, medium business, they can't handle very many of these exploits. So he was telling them the truth, but the reality is everybody that works for a company that gets really, really compromised may not be working there. The Saudi Aramco stuff, once they figured out what they wanted to steal over there, they wanted to create a diversion to try to steal the stuff and get it out, because they found out that they had been, people knew that they were in. They created a diversion by bricking 30,000 servers. 30,000 systems to brick. Think about, from an IT point of view, how long it would take you to build 30,000 systems. That's the level of sophistication that you're willing to go through to do something. So that's why we need more security professionals, because we got to get ahead of all of this. So what this talk is going to do one slide on each one of these areas. And we're just going to hit them real quick. And I'm not going to go through a lot of the slides, but they're there to take as a homework assignment. If you send me an email, I'll send you the slides. Okay? Physical security, very important. If they get access to the system, they have it. It's that simple. It's just a question of time. They can put in a CD of another operating system and boot it back up again, get to the disk itself, do whatever they need to do. Carry it out, they can spend a lot of time with it. If it's too big to carry out, they'll try to compromise it in different ways. But people security is really important. The most compelling thing that I heard lately was, they said, if you ignore the users, you've already lost the battle in the battlefield. Because the users are your eyes and ears to see what's going on. They know what's not normal. How come my system's running so slow? How come this application goes blue screen on me? They know, they sense when the network's not right. And if they report it to IT, maybe that's a hint that something went wrong in the network. Someone's doing something that they shouldn't be doing. So never forget physical security. We hear out of these really ugly buildings in every town that call central offices. That was our perimeter for a long period of time, was these concrete bunkers we put our switches in. The reality is now today, we're just broadcast around the world. A lot of our stuff now is in data centers and not central offices, but they're still there everywhere. So physical is important, don't ignore it. People security, vet who you have in the company, it's really important. We do background checks, drug testing, all of that stuff. Exchange information, you're seeing a lot more of this with the presidential executive order. We're sharing information between the government and the private sector. But there are a lot of laws out there. So for instance, my company can't share directly with the government because we'd be breaking the law. So we can do it under a subpoena when they ask us for specific information, but we can't just locally share back and forth. So some of those laws have to change in order for these executive orders to work. But the reality is we do a lot of sharing with a lot of different companies, a lot of different types of organizations that are out there, depending on what's going on. That good-looking guy up there is me. Part of my job is I have to cross-train for other types of jobs. So if the union decides to go on strike, which they did about a year and a half ago, that's what we mean, climbing poles and doing stuff. And I don't even like heights, but you know, sometimes you have to do that. Who do we interact with in my company? These are some of the organizations we work with. I just want to put a plug in for some of these local organizations. ISACA is here, ISC Squared. So if you have a CISSP certification, which is something that is, it gets you through the resume to the first level, so you maybe get a phone interview if you're trying to get into the security field. So getting at least one certification, even if it's a Cisco certification or something, that shows that you want to be a security professional and you want to match up. You have to get past the HR department and the computers first before you can even get the phone interview, before you can get the job interview. So it's important to do some of that stuff. Down here, I belong to the multi-state ISAC, which is a group of a lot of times governments and vendors, and we work together on things that are happening across the states in the United States. So that's another good one over here. ISSA, I've been sitting at the booth all day. Some of you folks have come up and said hi, and just a group of security professionals. So there's a lot of things out there. I gave a talk at IEEE 2 weeks ago on something associated with this too. The laws are changing around the world. It's a very, very complex thing for me to try and keep track of because we're in 150 countries. Even when I do rewrite a policy that matches to the regulation, I have to have it translated to that country's language, and I hope that they did a good job with the translation because I can't read a depth of that. For example, when I did one for Greece, it's in Greek, and it's definitely a different font and language than I don't even know what it said after it got translated. I just hope they did a good job on it. But there's a lot of privacy is driving a lot of the regulations around the world right now. You're seeing it also in the United States too. But as people become computer savvy, they will have computer cyber laws. They will have privacy laws, just due to the bad guys stealing things. So I have to keep track of that. The presidential executive order, we're really busy making sure that they don't think that the ISP can solve world hunger, and that there is responsibility across the ecosystem for security. It's not just the ISP that has the pipe that enables a lot of this stuff to happen. So I've been working a lot with that. You have to follow the laws and regulations of the land that you do business in. So you have to do those things, or else you get fines and penalties, and your reputation as a company goes downhill. So keep track of them. Legal up wherever you can, because your lawyers should be your best friends. Security training, really important. I'll hit one bullet here, which is cyber tabletops. I usually run one cyber tabletop a year in my company. I used to think when I was writing it that I was thinking very deviously about what could go wrong in the network, and when I read some of the things that have happened in the last year, I said, wow, I'm not even down in the weeds of being devious compared to what some of the people have actually done. So it's out there. One of the things that we learned from the latest one was that if we think our network is compromised, how do we use it to communicate? Because the bad people may be reading our email. The bad people may be watching my file transfers as we try to recover and thwarting all of our efforts. So that was an interesting takeaway. And then the other one was, well, if our network is really, really compromised, how do we communicate and get together on the outside of all networks and then come back in and do the repair? So that's one of my projects I'm working on this year, is to figure out how to, an internal and an external way of communicating if things really go bad. And trust me, if they go bad in my company, they're going to go bad in your company too. Because if our networks aren't working, yours aren't in a lot of cases. So we're thinking along those lines now, just to figure out, based off the Saudi Aramco type of a thing, what could be some bad things that would take place, and how do we recover from it as quick as possible. And we do that really good on physical security, like in the Hurricane Sandy, we had to replace 10,000 telephone poles. That's a lot of telephone poles. the logistics to get all those trees there, get them ready, put them up, put the new wires on them, and do it as quick as possible. So we're capable of doing it, but the cyber side of that is now a challenge. And people need to start to think about, how do I recover my business if something like that was to happen? So another good homework assignment for you. This came out of the multi-state ISAC, and it's just a good awareness type training that you can give to your users. If you get onto the mailing list, these come out like once a month. You can just put your new company logo on it, send it back out again, get some security awareness now. There's some good ideas in here on phishing. Phishing is trying to get someone to, social engineering someone to do something that they wouldn't normally do, like click on a link and get infected, and then they're already inside the company. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Some security terms, I mentioned ransomware. There's a lot of things up there. Advanced persistent threat is one you definitely should look up and understand. It's really more of an advanced persistent adversary. Like someone just gets in, hunkers down. In most cases, they're spies who are trying to take intellectual property and things along those lines. The real juicy stuff you have, the Coca-Cola formula, if you're working for Coke, stuff like that. They're looking for the stuff that can really make them a lot of money. And then down in here, there's a lot of different things. I don't know if anybody knows what water holing is, but think of the zebras in Africa. They're really thirsty, and it hasn't rained in 100 days, and they're going to the water hole, and the lions are just waiting for the weak one to call up the herd. Well, it's the same thing on the internet, and basically they see something big happening, and it's going through CNN's publicizing it. They'll infect CNN, so anybody that goes to that website gets infected. So it's the same analogy. They call it water holing. So we have geeky cyber terms for the same things that happen in the real world. But there's a lot of terms here. Google them, look them up. These are some security resources for people who come by the ISIS, I guess, and say, how do I get into this? This is what I look at and read on a pretty religious basis. I'm getting some pretty good feeds from the Department of Homeland Security on different things that are going on, and the FBI. So they are now starting to share more information. The good thing about it is it's more actionable information. And what that means is it's no longer good enough just to say this IP address. You have to have the IP address with the exact timestamp of that IP address, because this malware is constantly fluxing their IP addresses. So you have to know that instant in time, that place in the world, this was the IP address that was used. So that they've now figured out from the U.S. government point of view that actionable data is more valuable than, because you don't want to, as a company, to go out and shut off someone that wasn't even their IP address that they were using. You could be hurting their business. It could be a home address, and the person has a heart monitor and things like that. So you get into all these messy lawsuits, and so you really have to know who you're dealing with. So that timestamp's really critical. Now the U.S. government's figured that out. But the ISSA journals up there, different magazines, all of this stuff is free. So take a look at some of it. Don't inundate yourself with incoming spam every day, but it's nice to know what's going on and the level of magnitude of what's going on. And especially if, let's say, there's a new exploit and you're in the electric sector, you need to know about it. If you're in the water sector, you need to know about it. Had some guys hanging out on the Quabbin Reservoir over the last week or so, chemical engineers at midnight. Okay, not from this country. So, so we just have to think that, we had some terrible things happen here in the marathon, and they're out there. So our jobs as professionals is to try to keep our companies running and viable, and get to think differently. This was a horrific time in most people's lives. It was 9/11. We lost a number of employees when that plane hit there. We lost some employees. What happened here was these two buildings collapsed, which is what you see here. But what happened was World Trade 7 collapsed into this building here. This building here is 140 West Street, which was our largest CO in downtown Manhattan. So the wiring rack looked like this. And this is all the cables coming in that are connecting up Wall Street and everything like that. We had 3 or 4 days to rewire that. So what we were doing was we were taking the wires and we were taking them off the side of the buildings and doing whatever we could to make this happen and rewire it later. But that gives you an idea of the damage that occurred in that central office. Who would have thought that people would use a plane as a bomb? You got to start thinking like the bad guys on the cyber side. Who would have thought that people would do some things like this? But they have, and so we've been forewarned. So we have to start thinking about what we were for defenses. So we have a lot of different types of operation centers. This is a picture of actually the GSOC down in Texas. It's Global Security Operations Center. They do data loss prevention. So they're watching what egresses the network. Most people are watching what comes into the network. You also have to watch what leaves the network. Because it could be the most valuable stuff you have just left the network. And at that point, get your resume up. So it's really important to have a pulse on your network. So we do some stuff like that. It's a plug for Stu Jacobs, who wrote this book, Engineering, Information Security. He's a professor at Boston University. He wrote a pretty decent engineering book, and all of these appendices in the back of it has some really good samples if you have to write policies or write an RFP or things like that. So in the bigger slide deck that I did, he had a lot of graphics, and so I gave him a bigger plug, but I didn't use any other stuff except for this one slide. Network security, I'm not going to talk about all of this stuff here because I could talk for 3 hours on just this one slide. But the reality is these are some of the layers of defense that you would use. No one of them is going to stop the bad people from getting in. However, you do need these layers because if you don't, they're just going to come walking in. Right? So you need firewalls, you need routers, you need whitelisting, blacklisting, you need intrusion detection systems, you need load balancers, you need denial of service attack, which has been a big thing in the paper. The financial sector's been hit hard with it. They're going to go from the financial sector, they're going to go to the electric sector, they're going to go to any sector that they want as hacktivists and keep on bugging because they know that this type of attack does work. So just be forewarned, think about denial of service, understand what it means to your business. And if those web servers you have on the front end are really valuable to your business, think about that layer of protection on that stuff. There are services you can buy to mitigate some of it, but they get pretty sophisticated in their attacks. And to let you know how denial of service works from a carrier point of view, you buy so much bandwidth, just like on your cell phone, you buy so much data per month and speed like that. Or if you're FiOS, you buy so much a month, they have 30 upstream, 30 downstream. When you go beyond that capacity, then we have to make a decision. Do we let you have that extra capacity or not? Well, when you're using an edge router, there's probably 130 other customers that are using that same router. These are routers the size of refrigerators, they're big routers. They'll support like 130 customers. And if you are taking 50 or 60% of the bandwidth beyond what you paid for, we have to make a determination of, are we going to really hurt the other 129 that are out there? So if you buy a mitigation service, we can take that traffic and move it somewhere else and not hurt those other 29. If you don't, then we have to make a business decision. Do we keep that router up and running because it's going to reach capacity pretty fast? Those are decisions carriers have to make when these types of attacks are happening. So from a business point of view, think about it before it happens. You know, what are you going to do? What do you want us to do? Because if we drop your traffic, your internet connection is gone. So, but as a company, we have to try to keep the internet up. So it's a real balancing act that happens. Secure protocols, anything that starts with an S is a good thing, except for XML doesn't have an S in it, but it has some security. Anything that sends passwords in the clear is a no-no. Why? Because they're already inside your network. You should send their own clear passwords. Guess what? They get the admin passwords, they get any passwords that they want. So you have to assume they're on the inside, so you use secure protocols. Why? Because you make it hard for them. All right. These are some of the algorithms to use if you're going to use encryption. This could be a whole 3-hour talk just on encryption, but it's important to understand it. We use disk encryption on laptops, things like that. Yeah.
So want to use this?
Triple disk probably is better. Yeah, it gets out there. AES is probably a pretty good way of going. But there's a lot of older technology that still uses
I
that.
know.
So we have systems out there that are 50 years old, 30 years old. So sometimes you have to be backward compatible. So some of these older algorithms, they're still out there. They're better than nothing, but
With Microsoft stuff, sometimes they try to shut them off and then your system's not working.
they call those features. If you say, why do I want to tell my developers to use secure protocols, these are some of the reasons. For instance, ask them questions like, well, what countries are you going to have this data stored in? Or move this data, transfer this data back and forth from? Or what are the laws of the land that you're using for stuff? What kind of performance do you need? Is this data sensitive? If it's not sensitive at all, you may not have to protect it because it's all public knowledge. But as soon as it becomes someone says it's sensitive, it has a social security number, it has a credit card, it has healthcare information, it has financial information. At that point, it's sensitive, it needs to be protected. It needs to be protected at rest, it needs to be protected at transit. In transit, because someone could be just listening, they didn't get into that financial system, they're waiting for you to send stuff out, but they can listen. All right. So use that checklist. Application and software security, a lot going on in this space, but people have lost track in protecting the operating system and all of the other stuff that they've forgotten about the application. The application is really important. And the reason why they're important, one of the things that we're looking at is, do I have the right level of roles for the different people? In other words, if the person only needs to do backups, can they do backups and read writes and everything else, or can they just do backups? This person just needs to have read access to the application. Do they have read and write? Why do they have write? Do they need write? Because if the bad guy gets their account, they have both read and write and keep set match. So think about those role stuff. You also think about throttling. If I can only do 50 transactions an hour and I just did 5,000, that's way beyond what I should be doing. That means someone's probably running a script, and it's probably someone trying to do something really bad, whether it's an internal employee or someone on the outside. They don't know what the rules are, so therefore that should be alarmed. Okay? It may be that we're in a disaster situation and we've run some big tools to try to get the network up and running like 911, but the reality is in most cases, people can't physically do any more than that, so therefore a machine is doing something really bad. So think about that when you're building applications. What is abnormal and flag abnormal from an application point of view? It's another layer of defense. Don't forget it. Database security, it's a very, very complex area. There probably was no talk in here on it. I was amazed when I was talking to someone from Oracle that came in and talked to me about database security for about half a day. I said, wow, this is a big area. This is really complex. The reason why it's important is because they're going after the databases. It's just the same reason why they go after banks, because that's where the money is. Well, the databases have all the critical information in your company, critical information about your customers. That's what they want. So think about protecting your database administrators have to be well-trained on phishing and the latest security threats, and they have to do a good job of protecting their password and watching their privilege and access, because they're just waiting for those guys and gals to make a mistake. Yeah.
Let's say that you have most of your critical information up like on Salesforce. Is there any other things that you should do for protecting yourself?
Well, I really wouldn't put the real critical stuff on Salesforce if it was my company. But cloud computing is a whole different topic. I would lean people's more towards using private clouds versus public clouds, especially if you have sensitive information, because the jury is out on whether the clouds can be protected with real sensitive information. If you're encrypting everything and things along those lines, it's going to make it more difficult for them. But I would just be leery of putting real sensitive stuff out there and think about that. Okay. Data breach report, let's go through a few things. The things in red are the most important things. So who gets attacked? Everybody in this room. Okay. All industries. The tactics are numerous. The tactics are non-stop. You should start every 3 minutes. If you're lucky. I could be faster than that. State affiliated, 19%. So you're up against nation states who have lots of money. Okay, so 20% are coming from nation states. And guess what? That's up 10% from last year. All right, so you're dealing with people that have billions of dollars that are willing to take your stuff. So, small, medium businesses, they don't have the money to work against these guys. So, who are these people? They break up. The report breaks them up into activists, which are doing a lot of the denial of service attacks right now, criminals, and spies. The spies are the ones that are the well-funded ones. Criminals are the ones that are after the financial stuff that they can sell real fast. 5 minutes, okay. And then, what are some of the tactics? They are, activists are very basic methods. Criminals are in between complexity, and the spies, whatever they want to do and whatever they want to take. They could be trying for 3 to 5 years to do that. 78% of these attacks are discovered by the outside, not by you. And 69% by the government telling you you've been hacked, and 9% by your own customers. That's not much faith in the people inside figuring it out. So if someone tells you that they think that you have a problem, you probably do. 60% of the case, 66% of the cases were discovered in months and years. Well, this is the one where last year was 56%, now it's 66%. So we're going the wrong way. So it's taking us months to years to figure out when we've been compromised, and it takes them minutes to hours to break in. So there's something wrong with that curve, and we need to fix that a little bit. This is really interesting. This came from a company, I think it's called, I can't remember. But anyways, they provided us some data breach report. They looked at 47,000 incidents of when they go out and they do spear phishing attacks on companies who pay them to come in and do it. So what they found out was, on average, at about 3 spear phishing emails, they can get over 50% to click on them. And at 10, pretty much evening out here, they're in. So all they have to do is send out 10 of the same email inside your company, and somebody's going to click on it, and you're going to be infected, and the game's going to start, and you're going to start moving laterally. That's not many emails. That's why the bad guys are using it. It's so simple. It's past your firewalls, your routers, everything else. Someone clicks on it, they're infected, all of a sudden, you're in your network. So you can read these recommendations. I just want to talk a little about securing home network. All of these people are all breaking up with each other by texting. The young people, what is it, like 80% of the kids sleep with their phones, between 50 and 80%. So you may want to just grab them at night so that they can get good quality sleep. But, and you laugh because my daughter, her last breakup was over a text. So it does happen. So if you're protecting your home, think about these things, these next few slides. What's your 10 minutes? I was surprised. I went out to my router and I had 14 devices on it. I didn't include. The average on a firewall is 15 devices. We haven't get into the toasters and the refrigerators, maybe because you can't patch them fast enough, probably, if they have a problem. But then it gives you an idea. There's a lot of things you can do, a lot of smart things you can do. These are some of them. As far as smartphones, iPhones are a lot better protected from a malware point of view than the Droids of the world, the Android operating system. You're at about 150,000 right now Android malware attacks, and the smart iPhones are probably 10 or less malware, piece of malware. So if you have a choice, right now iPhone. However, what they'll find over time is that they'll find ways to get into whatever most people are using, so it will come back over to iPhone. But at least for right now, if you're buying one for the next 2 years, you may want to think iPhone versus Android. I gave each daughter a different one, just to see how it worked out. Phones do disappear, 3,400 last year. Boston was number 10. People just walk away from their phones and get off. Any proprietary of your company information on those phones? It's gone too. That's a data breach. In a lot of cases, you got to report. And penalties, fines. So think about that. Make sure that if your people have proprietary information on their phones, make sure it's encrypted. Otherwise, you're in trouble. Some basic things to do on devices in the home. Password protect. Wi-Fi, use WPA or WPA2. Don't use web. It can be broken in less than 60 seconds. It's only for people driving by within 300, 500 feet. However, just don't do it. Let them go to your other neighbors, not your house. If you live in there could be a lot of people. High rise in Boston, there could be a lot of people. Just a quick note, you can go to the site, please rob me. You're on Facebook, say, hey, we're having a great time in Puerto Rico or Punta Cana, wherever you are, and we're going to be back in 5 days. And they just told everybody on the internet that's watching you that your house is ready to be robbed and you got 5 days to do it. So bring in the Google first. These people look at the same information you post publicly, they look at it as, oh, this is an opportunity. So think about that next time you post something. You want everybody in the world to know where you are, what you're doing, who your friends are, all of that stuff. The answer is no. Tell your kids to stop doing it too. Because that's how kids can be socially engineered to meet someone somewhere or to try to compromise them at some event. So think about it from a reverse point of view of, oh, this is good information to share. Is it the right thing if it's a predator? And this gives you some more stuff for protecting your home. So that's what I had, and I'm sticking to it. So we've got 1 minute. Any questions?
What email address will we send the email to you?
David Dumas at Whitehouse.com.
No. David.Dumas at Verizon. Bob.Sorrow@Instagram.edu. Yes.
David, could you comment a little further on some other potential social engineering things like that? I know that phishing is kind of a big one, but if you like take a look at given the needs of dogs, because we talked about the technical side, we talked more about the social side. Can you comment a little further on understanding the social engineering?
Yeah, basically, I look at social engineers as magicians. So they're using not magic, which is taking out your mind and your visual effects to do something beyond what you can see. Social engineers are playing against how normally things work and using it in a different way. And they're very good at this. They can get someone to give up, I'm from this bank, I need your credit card, the expiration date, the 3-digit number on the back, they're verifying your account, we've had a problem, we've had a break-in type of a thing, you say, oh, for goodness sakes, we give you this stuff so you can track this guy down, and all of a sudden your credit cards are gone. They're very good at sounding like they're coming from a legitimate source and that they truly need this information, and they're forceful in that you have to give this thing or we're shutting down, or you can't show your credit card. You know, so someone who's 80 years old said, holy crap, I don't even know what the internet is, but I'm going to give you my credit card, and all of a sudden they find the credit card.
Examples like
You know, what I do is I start to Google it and research it from that point of view. I've heard that the RSA conference 2 or 3 or so years ago, and I haven't looked it up yet, there was a person who was going through different social engineering attacks and he had videos. And if you could find that person would actually maybe go in and do the talk or show you the videos. But I know that there are people out there, probably through YouTube, how the system social engineering techniques too. So I'd start with some of those.
I have a question concerning certifications. There are tons of certifications coming every day. Now, if you were to hire people and you are planning living for the next 5 years, what route, what kind of certification would be recruited?
Well, number one is CISSP. And it's not so important that it's a, you're going to learn a lot from it. But what's important is that it says that you're a security professional. You have to have 40 hours of training per year, and you're committed to the security field. That's what that certification buys you more than anything else. So I have a CISSP, I have a CISM, certified information security. I got that when I was at practice. That coverage, but the CISSP would be the one that gets you in the door more than any other one.
What about for interns? If I'm allowed to have interns in between, what about going to legal?
Interns are going to be hard to find at the collegiate level just because a lot of them don't have the work experience to be able to do the CISSP. A lot of times you need to pick up to 5 years of experience, and they're not going to have that. So I would say I would be looking at an aptitude in security, wants to be a security professional, maybe has joined to a student chapter, a local organization. I know I went and talked to Clark University, Northeastern chapter, as a student chapter for the ISSA. I'd bring them in as interns if they look like that they have the savvy and they can do what you want to do, because these kids are so smart nowadays, and mold them, see if they try them out. But they all need the opportunity, and we need more security professionals. So we can talk a little bit more if you want to. Send me an email, I'll give you some more ideas. Good. All right, we all set? Go for it.
Thank you.